Hello, my name is Allison Alfredo, and today I'm going to be presenting about Eva Frank y Gilabert. To begin, I'd like to introduce this incredible figure. Who is Eva Frank y Gilabert? Well, Frank is an architect, curator, educator, and lecturer of experimental forms of art and architectural practice. The majority of her work is based between Barcelona, Prague, and New York. She's the director of the Architectural Association in London, and since 2010, she has been the chief curator and executive director of Storefront for Art and Architecture in New York. She is also a professor at PRUM, which is the Academy of Arts, Architecture, and Design in Prague. And she's a visiting professor at Princeton University and Cooper Union in the United States. I'd like to address a list of some of her accomplishments since her come up into the industry in the year 2010. Frank has been a part of international competition juries and a member of several nominating and advisory boards, some including the Hong Kong Design Trust, Idea City, and the Wheelwright Prize, among many others. Frank's work has appeared in the form of articles, interviews in magazines, newspapers, and publications around the world, including some that are Architecture Record and Architecture Review, among many others. And in 2014, Frank, with her project Office US, was selected by the US State Department to represent the United States Pavilion in the 14th Venice Architecture Biennale. And this is just to name a few. So, what makes this architect and educator so impactful? Well, in her work, she blends local knowledge with global standards. She takes great consideration in the community needs when it comes to her designs. She is also fascinated with contemporary architectural histories and potential futures. Frank is also an expert in curatorial activism, along with planetary pedagogies and practices, and on subjects including architecture, pedagogy, curatorial techniques, and the importance of unusual ideas and undertakings in the development and understanding of public life. Frank has delivered lectures all over the world. One of her greatest architectural works was a project for Model, the Barcelona Architectures Festival. She worked together with Beth Gali and José Luis de Vicente to design 5 architecture exhibitions for the city. They basically took the public spaces in Barcelona and transformed them into both a playground and a platform for international voices, for local architects, for policymakers and politicians, and of course citizens. And this was to engage and discuss what the future of Barcelona and other cities could be. So Frank and her team came up with 5 different themes to help them understand at which moment they find themselves as architects operating within the city. The first theme is called Between Cultures, and this was about cities being a place of collision, and basically if you want engagement between different cultures, how can we do that in a way that is not just segregating and separating, but in fact integrating all different cultures? Some aspects of this part of the festival included many different books from many different cultures laid out for the public to view. The second theme is called Between Species, and it addresses a human-centric, anthropocentric perspective and understanding of the planet as a space of engagement and entitlement between nature and humans. In this design, they basically determined that it was essential to understand how we build, design, and inhabit the city in regards to natural life, taking into account organic elements and the essential need for them in designs. The third theme is called Between Classes, and this was meant to spread awareness for how architecture can enable and empower different individuals to occupy certain positions of power. And this is mainly in regards to things like privilege, wealth, and class. Between Generations, that's our fourth theme, and it was created in an effort to essentially bridge the gap between all ages and accommodate for every human, young or old, within a design. Frank was very adamant on taking into account the radical ideas of the youth and the experienced ideas of the older generations and consider both of them equally. The fifth theme is called Between Materials, and it is the final theme that helps us to understand the kind of complex relationship between the material and the ways in which we understand the circularity of architecture and the questions around things like sustainability, material reuse, and the way we can engage with the material world through different perspectives and more sustainable perspectives. Her quote I included at the bottom says, "We need to produce new models with new values." And this was really a foundational statement in the design development for this project. In her community and educational work, Eva Frank Gilabert was the first permanent female director of the Architectural Association, one of the most prestigious architecture schools in the whole world. She introduced things like the experimental program and the speculative studies department at the Architectural Association as a component of the new academic framework from the years 2018 to 2020. Frank also introduced the open tutorials and open seminars, which were two brand new educational initiatives that acted as forums for debate and education inside the institution. She oversaw numerous initiatives, including the Expanding Horizons campaign, which offered full scholarships across all programs to deserving students worldwide for the very first time. She also oversaw the AA's acquisition of the taught degree awarding powers. She oversaw the relaunch of the AA files, the Student Care Center, the Writing Center, the Careers Office, and the Hardship Fund to support student life and well-being. Along with Frank's curatorial beliefs and pedagogies, she also wanted to implement student well-being and success. So now I wanted to discuss some of the vocabulary terms previously mentioned in the presentation. The first being curatorial activism, which is the practice of organizing art exhibitions to ensure certain constituencies of artists are no longer excluded from the master narratives of art. It commits itself to counter-hegemonic initiatives that give voice to those who are underrepresented. This was a huge value in Frank's work. Pedagogies. This term means the method and practice of teaching, especially as an academic subject or theoretical concept. As mentioned before, Frank's main pedagogies surrounded planetary and curatorial lectures. The third term is contemporary, which is of the present time, modern, or belonging to the same period as something else. This is the time period that Frank's work is focused within. As mentioned before, AA is simply the acronym for the Architectural Association established by Frank, directed as well by Frank. And finally, the taught degree awarding powers is something that authorizes UK higher education providers to award taught degrees, including bachelor's and taught master's degrees, which is something Frank had a part to play in. This is my works cited and bibliography, and thank you so much for listening.